The first thing I remember is every single fork freezing midair when the New Year's countdown music still blasted through the speakers. Mason yanked his girlfriend toward me, that same smug grin he'd worn since we were kids. "Look, everyone," he announced loud enough for the whole room to hear. "This is my sister. Probably lesbian, right? Can't even keep a guy around." My parents smirked like it was the funniest joke of the night. A few cousins chuckled. The champagne glasses stopped moving. I didn't flinch. His girlfriend Riley just gave the smallest, weakest smile, then looked straight at him and said 5 quiet words that made his face turn white as the snow outside. Every laugh died instantly. My name is Harper Ellison. I've spent 33 years being invisible in my own family, and that night the lights finally flipped on, just not the way any of them expected. If you've ever been the punchline at your own family table, stay with me. This one ends with the kind of fireworks they never saw coming. Like the video, if you're ready for what happened next, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the moment everything exploded. Let's get into it. I still remember the way everyone stopped reaching for food when I was 8. It happened every single dinner. Valerie would fill Mason's plate, first piling on the best pieces of steak while the rest of us waited. My plate came last, always the burnt edges, the smallest portion, the cold mashed potatoes no one else wanted. If I reached for anything extra, her voice cut across the table, soft but sharp. "Harper, don't be greedy." Gregory never looked up from his phone unless the Wi-Fi dropped. Then he'd bark my name across the house like I was tech support on payroll. Fix the router, reset the modem, figure out why the smart TV wouldn't connect. Mason never had to touch a cable in his life. By the time I was 12, I learned to move quietly. I carried plates without clinking, stepped where the floorboards didn't creak, kept my voice low enough that no one felt the need to answer. It was easier that way. High school was the same script with better lighting. Mason got the new sneakers, the private SAT tutor, the weekend leadership camps that cost $2,000 each. I got the hand-me-down calculator and a lecture about realistic expectations. When colleges started sending acceptance letters, mine arrived first, full ride to Northwestern Engineering Scholarship, everything covered. I left the envelope on the kitchen counter, heart hammering, thinking this time they'd finally see me. Valerie opened it, scanned it once, and slid it back into the pile of bills. "That's nice, Harper," she said, already turning away. "But Mason just got waitlisted at Notre Dame. We can't afford to send both of you out of state." 2 weeks later, the scholarship money vanished. Valerie told the financial aid office there had been a family emergency. The emergency was Mason's deposit for Notre Dame. I found out when Northwestern sent the withdrawal notice. Gregory's explanation was one sentence: "We invest where the return is highest." I turned 18 that summer. My birthday check from Grandma, $500, disappeared from my dresser drawer the same week Mason needed new wheels for the Jeep Gregory bought him. Valerie called it a loan. The loan was never mentioned again. College became community college night classes, 2 buses each way. I paid for every credit myself, stacking jobs at the campus library and a 24-hour diner. Mason flew home every break with new stories about frat parties and spring break trips nobody asked me to contribute to. During freshman winter break, he wrecked the Jeep. Gregory didn't yell. He just looked at me across the kitchen the next morning. "You're good with cars, right? Take the bus to the body shop and handle it." I spent my only day off that week shuttling between the shop and the insurance office because Mason had practice. Sophomore year, I won a paid internship at a tech startup downtown. $12 an hour, real experience, resume gold. I came home waving the offer letter. Valerie was on the phone booking Mason's recruiting showcase in Florida, $3,000 for 3 days. "We're a little tight right now," she said without looking up. "Maybe next summer." There was no next summer. The money always went somewhere else. I learned to stop bringing things home. Report cards, awards, acceptance letters, anything that might force them to notice me and then decide I wasn't worth the cost. I kept my achievements in a folder on an old laptop hidden under loose floorboards in my closet, the one place they never looked. Gregory only said my name when something broke, or someone needed a ride. Mason got the congratulations, the new phone, every year, the proud Facebook posts. I got the leftover chores and the gentle reminders that gratitude was a virtue. By 22, I had 2 associate degrees, 0 debt, and a savings account I guarded like a state secret. Valerie found it anyway. Mason needed one last push for grad school applications, private coaching, fancy recommendation letters. $8,000 gone in a single afternoon. She left a note on my desk. "We'll pay you back when things settle." They never settled. I still cooked dinner some nights, set the table, washed every dish, then ate standing at the counter because my seat had been taken by one of Mason's teammates. No one noticed I was there. No one noticed when I wasn't. That was the house I grew up in. The one where love wasn't scarce, it was just never meant for me. 25 came quietly. At 25, Riley and I quit our agency jobs and started the 125 company in her Evanston garage. We met senior year at Illinois, bonded over late-night projects and mutual hatred for unpaid overtime. After graduation, we both landed junior strategist gigs at the same downtown shop, 60-hour weeks. Tiny salaries, bosses who stole credit. One Thursday in March 2014, we were eating cold pizza in the break room when Riley looked at me and said, "We're smarter than every creative director here. Why are we still doing this?" 2 weeks later, we gave notice. We had $8,000 between us. Riley put up her beat-up Subaru as collateral for a small business loan. I cashed out the last of my secret savings account. 50-50 split on paper, 50-50 risk in real life. We signed the LLC papers for North Peak Media on her parents' kitchen table, while her mom kept refilling our coffee like it was a normal Tuesday. The garage had one flickering fluorescent light, a space heater that smelled like burning plastic, and 2 secondhand Macs. We dragged in a folding table, hung a whiteboard, and got to work. First client was a local coffee roaster who found us on Craigslist. They paid $2,000 for a full rebrand and social strategy. We delivered in 9 days, running on Red Bull and pure terror. When the wire transfer hit our business account, we just stared at the screen for 5 minutes, then screamed like we'd won the lottery. Month 2. We hired our first freelancer, a motion graphics guy who worked for Equity and Ramen. Month 3, we lost 2 clients because we undercharged and overpromised. We ate instant noodles for dinner so often, the smell still makes me gag. Riley handled operations and client calls. I built every deck, every content calendar, every targeting sheet. We slept on air mattresses between the servers when deadlines got brutal. Some nights the garage dropped to 40 degrees, and we worked wearing fingerless gloves, breath fogging the air while we argued over shade of blue for a landing page. By the end of 2014, we broke even. By summer 2015, we moved into a tiny office above a vape shop in Wicker Park, 1,200 square feet, leaky ceiling, but it had heat and actual walls. Revenue hit 6 figures that year. We paid ourselves $28,000 each, first real paycheck either of us had ever seen, with our own company name on it. 2016, we landed a national outdoor brand. One campaign tripled their online sales in 6 weeks. Awards followed, mentions in Adweek, speaking gigs at small conferences. Investors started circling. We turned most of them down. We wanted to stay independent, stay ours. Riley became the face clients loved, calm, polished, always smiling on calls. I stayed behind the scenes, the one who built the actual strategies that made the numbers work. We never fought about credit. The contracts still read, Harper Ellison and Riley Vaughn, co-founders, 50-50, no hyphen, no, and. Early 2017, we hit 7 figures annual revenue. We rented real office space, downtown, glass walls, plants that didn't die, 20 employees who actually got health insurance. We threw a party on the roof, cheap beer and a playlist we made at 3 a.m. Riley raised her plastic cup and said, "We did this with nothing but laptops and stubbornness." Everyone cheered. For the first time in my life, I felt seen, and it was by someone who had never once asked me to shrink. We thought the hard part was over. In June 2017, Valerie and Gregory showed up at the office unannounced, Mason trailing behind them in a brand new suit that still had the tags dangling inside the jacket. Valerie smiled at the team like she owned the place. "We've decided Mason will step in as creative director," she declared. Fresh ideas, family energy, all that. He had just graduated with a marketing degree he barely earned and zero professional experience. The current CD, a guy who'd been with us 2 years, got walked out the same afternoon with a cardboard box. Mason's first week, he missed every stand-up, showed up at 11, and spent most afternoons at rooftop bars. When a client asked for a TikTok strategy, I stayed until 4 in the morning, building the deck trend analysis hook formulas, Stitch Ideas full production calendar. I saved it in the shared drive under Q3 Sports brand, Final. Next morning, the same file appeared in the client folder titled Mason Ellison, Sports Brand Concept. My name was gone. Every caption, every transition idea, every hashtag cluster was identical. He'd just swapped the cover slide. Riley saw the revision history. She looked at me across the desk, eyebrows raised, but said nothing. I just nodded and kept working. It became routine. I'd finish a Reels campaign for a beauty client, upload at midnight, wake up to Mason presenting it at 10 with his own voiceover. The team started clapping for him. Clients started asking for the Mason touch. Meanwhile, his betting habit grew. I noticed odd transfers first, 5,000 here, 8,000 there, always marked vendor advance or influencer deposit. By 2020, the amounts climbed. 10 grand to an account labeled ME Personal Consulting, then 15. I pulled the bank logs one night and saw the pattern transfers timed minutes after NFL games ended on Sundays. I started saving everything. Screenshots of Slack where he called my strategies safe and boring, recorded Zoom calls where he claimed concepts he'd never touched, exported every revision history that showed my original files and his copy-paste uploads. I kept a private folder labeled Receipts. In meetings, he'd lean back, feet on the table, and say things like, "Harper's great at execution, but vision. That's my department." The new hires laughed. Riley's jaw tightened, but she stayed quiet. 2022, he lost $62,000 on a single playoff weekend. The next Monday, a transfer for $65,000 left the company account at 2:14 a.m. The memo line just said, talent fee. I checked the recipient, a sportsbook in New Jersey. I added it to the folder. By 2023, the total crossed $178,000. He got bolder, started approving his own expenses, signing my digital signature on invoices I never saw. On Slack, he posted in the main channel, "Harper's been struggling with bandwidth lately, happy to pick up the slack." The laughing emojis piled up. Riley read it, closed her laptop, and looked out the window for a long time. Still nothing. I kept building the campaigns that paid everyone's salaries, kept watching my work walk out of his mouth, kept saving every bite of proof. From 2021 on, nothing he touched stayed clean. Some nights I sat alone in the office after everyone left, scrolling through 7 years of stolen slides, and felt the same cold calm I used to feel eating cold leftovers at the kitchen counter. Only this time, I wasn't staying quiet anymore. On the night of December 28, 2024, Lauren Parker, our former accountant who'd left the company back in November, texted me a single 47-page Excel file with no message attached. I opened it at 11:47 p.m. in my dark apartment. Rows and rows of transfers, every single one signed by Mason. Dates, amounts, fake vendor names, routing numbers. $178,422.31 moved over 19 months. She had highlighted the sportsbook IP addresses in red. I called her immediately. "How long have you known?" "Since the day I quit," Lauren said, voice low. "I kept remote access to the read-only ledger. I thought I was being paranoid until the numbers wouldn't balance anymore. She'd spent weeks matching withdrawal timestamps to NFL game clocks, cross-referencing burner accounts, pulling public gambling loss records that somehow ended up in Mason's name. The file was airtight. We met the next morning, December 29th, at a quiet coffee shop in Logan Square. Lauren slid a USB across the table. Everything's here. Bank logs, forged approvals, tax forms he never filed. Enough for criminal charges. That same afternoon we sat in a law firm on LaSalle Street. The civil attorney, a woman who specialized in corporate fraud, read the summary in 12 minutes and looked up. This isn't just embezzlement. It's tax fraud on a federal level. The IRS will eat him alive. We spent the rest of the day in her conference room. Signed retainers, printed copies, built timelines. By 6 p.m., we had a sealed complaint ready for filing and a whistleblower submission addressed to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division in Chicago. December 30th, we drove to the federal building downtown. Lauren handed the envelope to the agent herself while I waited in the car. The receipt stamp read 9:42 a.m., case number assigned on the spot. Riley knew every step. I'd told her the night Lauren first texted. She listened without interrupting, then asked only one question. Does he suspect anything? Not yet. She nodded once. Then I keep playing the happy girlfriend until the clock hits 0. No one watches me closer than he does right now. She still showed up to holiday parties on his arm, still laughed at his jokes in the office, still posted couple photos on New Year's Eve like nothing was wrong. Every smile was another layer of camouflage. I spent those same 48 hours finalizing the presentation deck, every stolen slide, every fraudulent transfer, every Slack message compressed into a single folder on a brand new USB. I labeled it plainly, evidence. Lauren texted the night of the 30th IRS confirmed receipt. They're moving fast. I stared at the message until the screen went black. Everything was locked and loaded. On the evening of December 30th, I drove my Civic back to Naperville in 6-degree weather. The heater barely worked, so I kept my gloves on the whole 40-minute drive. A small black suitcase sat on the passenger seat, one change of clothes, toothbrush, laptop, and the USB that now held 7 years of proof. That was everything I planned to take out of that house when I left for good. I pulled into the cul-de-sac just after 8. The street looked like a Hallmark card, every roofline dripping with white icicle lights, inflatable snowmen glowing on lawns, wreaths the size of car tires on every door. Valerie had outdone herself this year. The Ellison house was the brightest on the block because appearances always mattered more than heat bills. I didn't go inside yet. I parked 2 houses down, killed the engine, and just sat there watching the colored lights blink through the bare trees. Mason's new Audi took up most of the driveway, wrapped in a giant red bow like it was still Christmas morning. Gregory probably financed it. Valerie probably told the neighbors it was a company car. My phone buzzed against my thigh. Riley, already inside. He's 3 whiskeys in and bragging about the bonus he earned this year. I typed back, "You good, Riley? I've been in worse places. Just keep your head down until tomorrow night." Another message came 30 seconds later. "Riley, I've been on the inside long enough. Tomorrow I do what I promised the day we signed those first papers in my garage." I stared at the screen until the cold crept through my coat. She had never once in 10 years broken a promise to me. Not when we had $23 in the company account. Not when investors laughed us out of the room. And not now when she was sleeping next to the person who'd spent years trying to erase me. I believed her completely. I rolled the window down an inch. The air cut like glass, but it kept me awake. Kids ran past in snowsuits, laughing, dragging plastic sleds toward the hill at the end of the block. Normal families. Normal noise. Inside our house, through the big bay window, I could see Mason holding court in the living room, arms, wide mouth, moving a mile a minute. Valerie hung on every word. Gregory refilled his glass without being asked. Riley stood slightly behind Mason, one hand on his shoulder, the perfect girlfriend smile fixed in place. She caught my eye through the glass for half a second. Gave the tiniest nod. I looked away first. I stayed in the car another hour. The dashboard clock crawled past 10:09. Frost started crawling across the inside of the windshield. Every few minutes, another cousin or neighbor arrived, tires crunching over packed snow doors, slamming voices carrying across frozen lawns. At 10:47 p.m., I finally grabbed the suitcase, and the USB walked up the salted driveway and let myself in, with the key I hadn't used in months. The entryway smelled like cinnamon and pine, and the same lemon polish Valerie had used since I was 10. Mason's voice boomed from the kitchen. "Took you long enough, Harper? Thought you were too busy being important to show up on time." I didn't answer. I set the suitcase by the stairs, slipped the USB into my pocket, and went upstairs to the same bedroom that still had my high school posters curling at the edges. I didn't unpack. I didn't plan to stay long enough for that. I lay on top of the covers, fully dressed, boots still on, and watched the fairy lights from the neighbor's tree flicker across the ceiling until the house finally went quiet around 2. My phone lit up one last time. "Riley, see you tomorrow night. Midnight." I typed back a single word. "Always." The clock on the mantel hit 11:55 p.m. on December 31st, and the first fireworks cracked open the sky above Naperville. The living room was packed, cousins on the sectional, neighbors on folding chairs, champagne flutes catching the colored flashes through the windows. The TV blared the downtown Chicago countdown volume low under overlapping conversations. Mason stood in the center, arms slung around Riley, whiskey sloshing in his other hand. He spotted me leaning against the archway and raised his glass like a toast. 10-9. The TV crowd chanted. He grinned wider. "Everybody quick toast to my sister. Probably lesbian, right? Still can't land a single guy." Laughter rippled. Valerie smirked into her Prosecco. Gregory lifted an eyebrow like it was clever. 8-7. Riley stepped out of Mason's arms, smooth as silk. She walked straight to the TV, picked up the remote from the coffee table, and killed the broadcast feed. The screen went black. Silence dropped so hard the fireworks outside sounded miles away. Riley pressed one button on the small black remote in her other hand. The 85-inch screen lit up again, this time with the North Peak Media logo and a single slide in bold red, Mason Ellison. Terminated, effective immediately. Mason blinked. "What the hell?" Riley turned to the room voice, calm, loud enough for the back row. "For anyone who doesn't already know, my name is Riley Vaughn. I am co-founder and 50% owner of North Peak Media since 2014. Not Mason's girlfriend, not his +1, co-founder. With Harper." She clicked. Next slide, bank transfer logs, dates, highlighted, sportsbook logos stamped across each one. $178,422.31. Gasps, phones lowered, another click. Slack screenshots, Mason calling my work garbage, claiming every campaign as his own. Another click. Forged expense reports with my digital signature copied and pasted. Valerie's glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the hardwood. Mason lunged for the remote. Riley sidestepped, handed it to me without looking. I caught it midair. I finally spoke. "You're done, Mason. Fired. Escrow freezes at midnight. Every cent you took is documented." The front doorbell rang 3 sharp times. Gregory stumbled toward it, confused. "Who orders pizza on New Year's?" He opened the door. 2 men in dark jackets stood under the porch light, badges already out. "IRS criminal investigation. We have a federal warrant for Mason Ellison." The room exploded. Cousins scrambled backward. Someone screamed. Mason's face went gray. He looked at Riley like she'd grown a second head. "You set me up," he shouted. "You've been with me for a year and a half." Riley met his eyes ice cold. "I've been with Harper for 10. You were just the cover." One agent stepped inside, cuffs ready. The other began reading rights. Mason tried to bolt toward the kitchen. Gregory grabbed his arm, then let go like he'd been burned. Valerie sank to the floor among the broken glass, sobbing my name for the first time in years. I didn't move to help her. I walked to the entryway, picked up the small black suitcase I'd left by the stairs 24 hours earlier, and slipped the USB into my coat pocket. The same USB now mirrored on the screen behind me, copied to the cloud, sent to every board member an hour ago. Riley met me at the door. She didn't touch me, just nodded once. Outside, fireworks painted the sky red, green, gold. Sirens started in the distance, growing louder. I stepped over the threshold into the freezing night. The agents were already guiding Mason down the salted walkway in cuffs. He was yelling something, but the wind swallowed it. I didn't look back. I got in my Civic, started the engine, and pulled away from the brightest house on the street as the clock on my dash flipped to 12:02 a.m. Happy New Year. Yuli 2025. I sit in the new corner office overlooking the Colorado River in Austin. Sunlight bounces off the water and floods the room. The sign on the glass door reads, North Peak Media, South HQ. Riley's office is across the hall. We kept the same 50-50 split, same partnership agreement, just new skyline. The old company in Chicago is technically still alive, but 70% of the staff took our relocation packages and came south with us. The rest scattered when the bankruptcy filings hit the papers. Creditors picked over what was left. The downtown lease got terminated in April. Someone told me the space is now a WeWork. Mason's criminal case is moving slowly. The civil suit we filed cleared summary judgment in May. The judge ordered full restitution plus penalties. He still lives in the Chicago area, but the Audi is gone and the apartment lease is in someone else's name. I don't check his socials anymore. I blocked everything the night I drove away. Valerie and Gregory sold the Naperville house in March. The market was hot, but after liens and back taxes, they walked away with almost nothing. Last I heard, they moved into a 2-bedroom condo near O'Hare. Neither has tried to contact me. My number changed the day I crossed the Texas state line. Their names are just names now. Riley and I never talk about the 18 months she spent dating him. We don't need to. Some nights we close our laptops, order tacos from the truck downstairs, and sit on the balcony watching kayaks drift by. That's enough. We hired Lauren as our new CFO. She starts Monday. The irony makes us laugh every time we say it out loud. Revenue this quarter is already higher than our best year in Chicago. Clients followed us. New ones keep calling, and for the first time, the contracts have both our names on the cover page from day one. No explanations required. Sometimes tourists stop on the Congress Avenue Bridge at sunset to watch the bats. I stand among them, phone on silent, wind in my hair, and realize I can't remember the last time I felt small. I kept one thing from the old house, the folder on my desktop labeled receipts. It's still there, encrypted, untouched since January. I don't open it anymore. I don't need to. The proof did its job. People ask if I'm angry. I'm not. Anger takes energy I'd rather spend building the next thing. The river keeps moving, the city keeps growing, and every morning I walk into an office that belongs to us. No favors, no golden children, no stolen credit. That's the only happy ending I ever wanted. Thanks for sticking with me through all 8 parts. If this story hit home, drop a like, share it with someone who needs to hear they're not the problem, and I'll see you in the next one.